It's another day, and we have yet another example of leftist violence against law enforcement. Around 8:40 a.m. Eastern Time, a sniper opened fire at an ICE facility in Dallas, Texas. 3 individuals were shot, but none of them were ICE agents. They were all illegal migrants being deported back to their home countries. Unfortunately, one of them ended up dying at the time of the shooting. Since then, another one has passed away, so 2 of the 3 are dead. The third one is in critical condition. When law enforcement figured out where the sniper was, police officers started approaching him, and he ended up shooting himself. Now, because we didn't know a lot of facts, because no ICE agents were shot, a lot of people immediately began speculating that this sniper must be on the right. He must be a racist. He must be a MAGA extremist who is committing this horrible act of targeting illegal immigrants. But the reality was we had no facts at the time, and, well, since then the facts have come out, and it's unfortunately fitting into this larger pattern of left-wing violence. But even though the facts weren't out at the time, that didn't stop Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer from taking to the airwaves, admitting he didn't know what happened, and then using his platform to push for gun control. Take a look at this.
This is just terrible. Everybody, right, left, center, I don't care what your politics are, has to speak out strongly against it. But look, I think, and I don't know what's happened here, and I don't know about the guns, but we need better laws on guns. I mean, we got something done a few years ago, but it's just rampant, and we have to do more.
Yeah, schools,
I'm the author of the Brady Law, the assault weapons ban. It's become almost every day one of these things happen, and we.
It's just awful. How are you going to go on national TV when you don't even know all the facts, when the investigators haven't even finished their job yet, and use this tragedy, where now 2 people have died, 3 if you include the shooter, and use that to promote your agenda for gun control? It really doesn't make sense when you consider it within the larger pattern of left-wing violence in the last few weeks. You take a look at what happened in Minneapolis at Annunciation Catholic Church. The shooter there didn't trigger any of the red flag laws. I mean, Minnesota has some of the strictest gun laws in the country. They have the red flag laws that Democrats want so much, yet that wasn't prevented. You take a look at what happened with Charlie Kirk. Tyler Robinson, if I'm not mistaken, he borrowed or stole a gun from a family member, from his grandpa. It's not as if he went to a store and tried to buy it there. So, like, what law would have prevented that other than tighter security on campus or tighter security at that school? Yet Chuck Schumer out there, you know, he doesn't want to talk about the reality of what's happening. He wants to blame this all on the guns. Well, shortly after Chuck Schumer went on air, the FBI authorities came out and they said, yeah, this actually was political violence and they are investigating it as such.
I can confirm at this time that the FBI is investigating this incident as an act of targeted violence. It is unfortunately just the most recent example we've seen of targeted violence, to include here in North Texas, where back on July 4th, we saw a coordinated attack carried out against an immigration detention center in Alvarado, Texas. What I can also share with you is that early evidence that we've seen from rounds that were found near the suspected shooter contain messages that are anti-ICE in nature. Again, this is just the most recent example of this type of attack. This will be a whole of government response. There will be no resource not utilized to bring all those individuals who are responsible to bring them to justice and to hold them accountable. While we're not releasing identities of any victims at this time, what I can confirm for you is no members of law enforcement were hurt during this attack.
So there you have it. The fact that he wrote anti-ICE messaging on the casings gives us crystal clear insights into the motivation, political leanings. Now, I know some of you are going to be saying, well, Daniel, if this person is anti-ICE, then why did he shoot and kill illegal immigrants? Well, personally, I don't think he was aiming for them. I think he was aiming for the ICE agents, and quite frankly, he was a terrible shot, and it resulted in this tragedy. But it's not just what's written on the casing. We now know who the shooter is. We can take a look at social media profiles, voting history. By the way, this person also has an arrest record, and so we'll look into all of that, and I'm going to show you the receipts here because I know everyone is skeptical these days. Look, I know we all have a penchant for thinking for ourselves, but with certain things, we could use some guidance, like like medical advice, taxes, and Medicare. Unfortunately, a lot of Medicare agents push Medicare Advantage plans even when they're not right for you because they make more money doing it, more commissions. And that's why I'm proud to partner with Chapter. Unlike others, they don't just tout the amazing benefits of Medicare Advantage, they walk you through all of your Medicare options. Original Medicare, Medicare Supplement, Medicare Advantage, and Part D, explaining the pros and cons of each. They support you in comparing every plan against your specific healthcare needs because they want to ensure you have the best coverage for you. One Chapter member, Jill, said her advisor presented options she didn't even see on the official Medicare.gov website. And in many cases, Chapter saves people over $1,000 a year by getting them on the right plan. So, if you're on Medicare or going to be soon, click the link down in the comments below to get in touch or call 321-358-2297 to feel confident in your Medicare coverage. Shortly after the press conference, FBI Director Kash Patel confirmed all of this, posting on X, the second paragraph here. While the investigation is ongoing, an initial review of the evidence shows an ideological motive behind this attack. See photo below. One of the unspent shell casings recovered was engraved with the phrase, anti-ICE, more updates will be forthcoming. And if we zoom in, we can definitely see the writing anti-ICE on that casing right there. So definitely gives us motive. The shooter, by the way, has been identified as Joshua John. Ever since his identity was made public, people like Laura Loomer have been doing background checks. And what's really interesting is when you do these background checks, it pulls in all of your social media profiles. So you'll notice here 10 social media profiles identified for Joshua John. But take a closer look at that profile image. If we just zoom in on it, you'll notice, oh, what's that? Like, he's a communist, glorious exposition comrade? If he's not a communist, he definitely has communist sympathies, or at least has left-wing extremist ideologies. There's no way to look at that profile picture and say, oh, that guy's MAGA, or oh, that guy's a right-wing Republican. I think it's very clear where his sympathies lie. And if we just bring back the background check again, you'll notice his location, Fairview, Texas. Fairview is a suburb of Dallas, so it's definitely lining up. It's lining up with his age, and like I mentioned earlier, we do now have his voting record, which I'll get into later in the video. But unfortunately, this string of left-wing extremist violence isn't surprising when you consider that not just the media, but the Democrat Party leadership itself has been attacking ICE agents, been calling them the Gestapo. Of course, this is par for the course. If they're calling President Trump Hitler and calling him an authoritarian dictator, then of course he's going to need his own Gestapo-like police force, and that's what they're accusing ICE of being. And unfortunately, this isn't the first attack, the first shooting at an ICE facility. There was one in Texas just a few weeks ago. We take a look at what happened earlier this week, late last week, in Chicago, in New Jersey, in New York, where Democrats are blocking ICE vehicles, where they're fighting, physically getting into altercations with ICE agents. You take a look at what happened in the Pacific Northwest, it is very clearly a pattern here, and the Democrats, well, quite frankly, they only have themselves and their rhetoric to blame.
ICE, unmask. What are you afraid of? What are you afraid of?
But as somebody who understands history, when I see ICE, I see slave patrols. Now, I never lived through the slave patrol period, but if you know the history of policing in this country, then you understand that they were born out of slave patrols.
This is not Germany. That's the SS and the Gestapo. This is the United States of America. Unmask yourselves.
ICE running Gestapo-like around our country.
The Gestapo had the same function. It was there to draw a distinction between us and them. It was not federally, it was controlled by the leader. And we're seeing disturbing similarities between this force and the Gestapo.
Yeah, unfortunately, the left is just doubling down on their rhetoric. I had hoped, perhaps naively, that after Charlie Kirk's assassination, that the left would change course, or at least soften their rhetoric for, I don't know, a day. But they are just doubling down on dumb and digging a deeper hole for themselves. Well, Joshua John has had at least 2 run-ins with law enforcement before. He was once convicted of selling marijuana, but then on top of that, his voting records were actually brought up, and the only record is he voted in the Democrat primary in 2020. While that is not conclusive proof that he's in evidence, again, you just take a look at the larger pattern here. You take a look at what was written on the casings. You take a look at his profile pictures on social media. It just all creates a very clear, vivid image here. Now, in most normal people's minds, they would blame the perpetrator of this violence. They would say, like, you perpetrated this great act of evil. It's your fault. The blame lies with you. But on MSNBC, they were actually blaming the victim, or the intended victims, because obviously it was illegal immigrants that were shot. It's just horrible. Like, yes, of course they should be deported. That doesn't mean they should be killed. No one has been saying that. So this is just absolutely awful. But on MSNBC, they said all of this was ICE's fault. It's not the shooter's fault. It's ICE, because they're so divisive.
The fact that they hinted at a potential motivation here with the etchings on the round saying, quote, anti-ICE in nature. And of course, the motivation is being investigated, and this is very early in the investigation. But the fact that there is this call for the division to stop, for the rhetoric to be tempered down, for the rhetoric to be dialed down, multiple officials mentioned that, including the official from the ICE office in Dallas saying, quote, the rhetoric has to stop. Texas Senator Ted Cruz mentioned it also, saying that politically motivated violence is wrong and that, quote, demonizing ICE must stop. So we heard that over and over and over and over again. And it stood out to me, obviously, because we have seen just the rhetoric escalate. We've also seen the very dramatic videos of ICE nabbing individuals and tossing them into unmarked vehicles. A lot of these ICE agents have been masked, and so it has been very divisive. And there's been a lot of fear in the different communities where we've been reporting. And so the call for the decrease in that division and the rhetoric is what really stood out.
Yeah, we're definitely hearing increased calls for bringing the temperature down. Just want to let us know that
Oh, gotcha. It's because ICE agents are wearing face masks for their own safety, to prevent their own doxing, to prevent their family members, their friends from being targeted. They're the reasons why this shooter decided to shoot at an ICE facility and unintentionally kill 2 illegal immigrants. Yeah, that 100% makes sense, MSNBC. Or should I say MS Now? I don't know, whenever their new name change, it makes sense. Or when it takes place. It doesn't make sense. Yeah. One final note before we wrap up this video, but I saw a few comments on my uploads yesterday asking why I didn't talk about the Charlie Kirk Memorial Service. I actually had to be offline for the last few days, and so that's why I didn't cover it. I try to be as timely as I can, obviously, whenever covering the news, and so because I was offline till yesterday, Tuesday, I just didn't feel like it was appropriate to cover it then, just because it had already happened, and I figured, you know, everyone had probably already seen the clips or the highlights, or maybe even watched it live. I know many of you went, like I've seen your emails, some of you sent in some clips, and it was just beautiful, I believe. At first I was caught off guard, like, the pyrotechnics, this feels weird, this doesn't feel like something you would see at a memorial service, but the more I thought about it, you know, it's a celebration of life, it's a celebration of not just everything he's been able to accomplish, but the legacy that Charlie Kirk, has left behind, and the legacy that will continue to move forward in his name. So I thought that made a lot of sense, and I believe the most powerful speech for me, the most powerful moment, was Erica Kirk's entire speech. You could tell she was passionate. You could tell that she obviously is just dealing with unimaginable heartache and pain, and yet had the strength to go up there, deliver that message, inspire people. I don't know about y'all, but her speech was really refreshing, because as politics obviously is such a huge part of the story, and politics is always, I don't want to say divisive, but there is a lot of mudslinging that goes back and forth, right? But when I heard Erica Kirk's speech, it was just something that I thought was inspirational and motivating and transcended politics, just appealing to our better selves and how we can become better people to make the world and our country a better place. I personally found that very inspiring. For me, I was not a fan of the political moments during the memorial service. I believe that it should have been spent focusing on eulogizing, celebrating Charlie's life, and just remembering him. So whenever it got political, it wasn't as if that was the main tenor of the memorial service. But whenever that happened, I was like, oh, I don't know that this is the place for it. But hey, maybe that's what Charlie would have wanted. And I'm sure they ran things by his wife. So for those of you who are wondering about my thoughts, I hope that pretty much sums it up. As always, though, that is just my analysis and commentary. That's what's happening in the world of politics from my point of view, and I would love to hear from you. So why do you think this guy shot and killed illegal immigrants? Do you think that was intentional? Do you think he had a perverse reason to do that? Or do you think what I thought, that he was aiming for the ICE agents and he was just a bad shot? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. If you haven't already, please be sure to give me a thumbs up. I know it's a simple thing to ask for, but it really does help me reach more viewers like you in the algorithm. Be sure to smash that subscribe button and to check out one of these videos.